You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.
Join us now for the expert source for inside information on the options markets. It's time for Options Insider Radio with your host, Mark Longo.
All right, everybody. That music can mean only one thing. It is Interview Tuesday yet again here on the old Options Insider Radio Network, the portion of the week where we welcome on guests from throughout the world of options and derivatives and indeed beyond and proceed to pick their brains for the benefit of you, the listener. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the aforementioned network. If you guys are liking what you hear on this show and any of the legion of shows hitting the network multiple times a day these days. And I see the numbers. I know you guys are coming in mass these days. Make sure you put those reviews up and your comments on your platforms of choice. Could be your Apple Podcasts, your TuneIn, your Spotifys, your YouTubes, all the other legions of platforms you guys get our content. So new folks can continue to discover this network. We've seen a massive influx of people over the past 6 or so months. And it's more important than ever that people have a reliable source for content in these troubled times. So if you like what you hear, keep those reviews coming so new folks can continue to join the party. Of course, keep those questions coming, too. Maybe for this show, also, suggestions, who you'd like us to feature here on Interview Tuesday. We're always open to your interesting suggestions. And let's see who's joining us in the hot seat this week. He is a returning offender on the network, even though he hasn't been on in a little while. He is Barry Starr, the CEO over there at Wall Street Horizon. Barry, welcome back to the Options Insider radio program.
Well, thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Appreciate being here. And my seat is not too hot yet, but we'll see how it goes.
We're just getting started, so we'll see. We'll turn up the heat for you in a little bit there, Barry. But first, we'll start slow. We'll make it easy for you. It's been a couple of years since you've joined us here on the network. So why don't we start there? A lot of people have discovered the network, particularly over the past 6 months. So a lot of new users and new listeners out there. Why don't you give them a quick overview of what the heck it is you guys do over there at Wall Street Horizon?
Great, Mark. Again, thanks for having me on. Wall Street Horizon, it's really simple. We are about corporate events. That's what we do. That's our entire business, is tracking, curating, and presenting corporate events. We, in fact, over the almost 20 years we've been doing it, we've elevated it into an art form. We're more accurate, more comprehensive, more timely than anybody else in the marketplace, which is how we've become the gold standard. And at the end of the day, the purpose for this level of accuracy and obsessive compulsiveness for quality, accurate information is it's all designed to keep your listeners from missing market-moving events.
You're actually in a good spot, Barry, because we are all living collectively through the mother of all events right now. Of course, I'm talking about the pandemic. It has impacted every fabric of society and certainly impacted every fabric of the financial markets as well. So you guys, I can't imagine, you guys must be working 24/7 over there. Things must be changing at a fever's pace over there during the pandemic, Barry.
Well, yes and no. It's actually interesting because our process hasn't changed one iota, but what is interesting is that a lot more people are paying attention to it. In March, when the whole COVID thing kind of went down, we came out with a COVID report, an impact report. In fact, it's still out there. You go to our website, you can sign up for it. And It's a weekly report of all the companies that have kind of moved or changed their corporate events, who have pushed back an earnings date or have reduced or suspended a dividend, all related to COVID. And it's really been kind of interesting. We did it back in March, really just to tell our customers, hey, we're still here, we're still doing what we're doing. But we've actually seen increases in business because of this really simple, helping people figure out, and anybody who studies corporate events and the movement of the corporate events knows that dates, content, and revisions to all these corporate events provide key financial indicators about the company. So if a company moves their earnings back, that's generally not a good sign. If a company obviously reduces their dividend, that's not a good sign. And so, we have again become really the top of the food pyramid for this tiny little corner of the world called corporate events, and that's why all the major folks in the marketplace use us.
Yeah, I can't imagine, another time where we've seen more shakeups in the corporate event calendar. Just ballpark it for us, Barry. Right now, of course, we're in the middle of Q3 closing in, of course, or Q3 done. Now we're closing in on Q4 here. So wrapping up multiple cycles of earnings, how do we stand right now? How does it compare in terms of the rate of changes you're seeing, dividends, earnings, pushbacks, all these things, compared to a traditional Q3 into Q4 kind of time horizon?
Well, the second quarter, there was a big change, big delays in a lot of companies, not all of them, and that was interesting, which ones delayed and which ones didn't. Coming into the third quarter, things have stabilized in the world of earnings. In the world of dividends, we continue to see lower dividends. And also interesting, something we track pretty closely, are investor conferences and virtual investor conferences. In fact, something just got published on Integrity Research, I think yesterday, using our data, that talked about how investor conference activity is down about 20-25% from a year ago.
One of the things that's really surprised me over the course of these past couple of earnings seasons in particular, because once the pandemic really kicked off in earnest in February into March, I assumed, like a lot of people assumed, that we were in for a rock'em sock'em robots cycle for volatility, names not announcing, because it was a period, and it still is a period, where you can't really give any measurable guidance, and that just throws a wrench really into everything out there. So I assume we'd see a lot of volatility, a lot of big shakeups on the corporate events path, because analysts in the market, they tend to like a little bit more concrete numbers, and you can't give them to that. They tend to punish names out there, and yet we've seen effectively exactly the opposite last cycle, and now we're on the tail end of this cycle as well. And we've been crunching the numbers over there on our site, looking at how straddles are priced going into the cycle versus the kind of movements we're getting, how much of that straddle volatility is actually merited, is actually earned. And it's been surprising how little movement we're seeing out there right now. I think one of our contributors called it the worst season he's ever seen, a blood red season for volatility buyers, premium buyers in the marketplace right now, because we're just not seeing the movement out there that you think you would see otherwise in a pandemic. So has that been your takeaway as well, Barry? Has it been surprisingly muted on your end from an overall market movement and impact as a result of these events?
Well, like so many of my answers, the answer is yes and no. It has been muted, but the volatility that has occurred because of the pandemic, because of these events moving around, I can tell you, yes, it's true. We've had a couple of clients that have blown up because they weren't really managing their risk very well. But for the majority of our clients, they've been very quiet, which tells me that they're actually making money hand over fist.
And I know you guys on your site there have a white paper about corporate events and the impact on volatility. Any interesting nuggets, any interesting findings or takeaways you want to share with our audience there, Barry?
We actually had a paper just come out last week using our earnings dates and the movement of our earnings dates. Professor, I can never say it right, but Yixen Chen, Y-E-X-E-N, Chen from the Simon Business School in Rochester, and two researchers from that tiny little place called Harvard Business School just published a paper last week. It's on our website. Found that every earnings quarter, there are a handful of days where a significant cluster of important firms are announcing their earnings simultaneously, either in the pre-open or in the post-close period. Now, here's the key, and this is what I love about this paper, is that on the days leading up to the post-close clusters, the market performs spectacularly, like 17 times the norm, delivering most of the excess return for the entire year on just like a dozen days without any excess volatility, leading to just unbelievably extraordinary Sharpe ratios. And it's the paper's on our website, wallstreethorizon.com. I encourage everybody to go take a look and read it. It's amazing that there's a difference between companies and things that happen pre-open versus post-close.
Well, I mentioned my surprise at the somewhat muted volatility impact we've seen over the course of the past couple of earnings season. But, you've been watching the corporate event space for over a decade now. You're one of the originals in that space, Barry. And this is obviously an unprecedented time in terms of the impact from corporate events. What would you say are the biggest surprises that you've seen over the course of the past 6 months as all this madness has unfolded in the marketplace?
I guess the thing that's most surprising to me is that things stay the same. It's not corporate events. It's not fundamental data. It's not, revenues and, cash flows and stuff like that, but it is a fundamental data set. It is core data that everybody needs to use to put into their strategy. Either you are trading into these events for volatility or you're trading around these events to avoid the volatility. But either way, you need to know when these events are going to happen to make money or avoid losing money. And over 20 years, what has been remarkable to me is just how it's the same thing going on, and the signals that people find in the movement and the revisions to these corporate events, these signals last for decades. It's things that alpha alpha strategies or trading strategies that people found and fell across in 2007 are still working just fine today.
You mentioned the signals in there. Obviously, options traders like to key around events, event risk, and trading around events like earnings and others are a big driver for volume. I'm curious, for your platform, who would you say are the biggest consumers, the biggest users of your data? Is it options traders? I could certainly see a use case for that. Is it equity traders? Is it some other class out there? Who's the biggest users of your Wall Street Horizons data?
Well, our clients run the gamut, all over the place, from options traders to hedge funds to algos to quants to RIAs use it, registered investment advisors in the corporate space, corporate access. We do nice business in corporate access. In the retail world, kind of a pretty well guarded secret. We're on about, I think it's 35 million retail desktops. There's a lot of usage of this type of data in the retail space. But, who uses it the most? I mean, certainly the greatest value, one of the greatest values for the data is right in your world, Mark. It's the options traders, and they're working on it on really on a short-term basis because they see a lot of this volatility. That's where they see, when there's a revision, when a company is supposed to announce next Thursday, and then they push that earnings date to the following Tuesday, and it crosses an option expiration date. There's a real quick, solid ability to make or lose money depending on which side of the trade you're on.
Now, your point about the retail brokerage platforms is a good one. A lot of retail listeners out there, they might hear this and say, oh, this is, an advanced, expensive platform. I can't access this. Yet they may already have access to it and not even know it, Barry. And they probably are already using it on probably their brokerage platform of choice.
Absolutely. For those who are a little bit older, like me, BASF used to have a commercial out there that says, we don't make the products you buy, we make the products you buy better. Well, we make the services that your listeners probably use already better. Portions of our data are, already in platforms like Hanwick and FT Options and Trade Alert and LiveVol and Fly on the Wall and SIBO and New York Stock Exchange and a whole bunch of folks. And the retail platform, our data, some of our data is already on, Schwab and Interactive Brokers and E-Trade and TD Ameritrade. They're just, we're on, 6 million Robinhood cell phones. Our data is put all over the place because, we're the go-to people for this type of data.
Well, you guys definitely get the award from me for one of the best product names out there, the enchilada. It's making me hungry just talking about it, Barry. So tell us, what is the enchilada, and is it possible indeed to get the whole enchilada, sir?
And I apologize for this comment, but yes, it's a rather cheesy name. I get it. Enchilada came about from a client of ours, actually. We had been delivering, we started it a long time ago with just earnings, and we moved into dividends and splits and corporate events and investor conferences and, all these types of things. We now have tracked 40 different event types, FDA approval dates, movie releases. I can tell you when a company is going to release a movie, vis-a-vis an option, vis-a-vis an earnings date, or I can tell you an option expiration is going to occur vis-a-vis an earnings release. And all these things, particularly as they move, have all kinds of, volatility gradient potential. Let's see. What was your question again, Mark? I'm sorry.
You got excited by the whole enchilada.
Oh, enchilada. You were asking about enchilada. So anyway, a client basically said, you're giving me 30 different files. Can't you just give me the whole enchilada? Give it to me all in one place. And so what we created was essentially an API, and this API is going to be coming out on a high-end retail platform at some point, I hope before the end of the year, or a version of it, I should say, where you can say, I am tracking Gilead Sciences. I want to know everything in the public space because we only deal with publicly available information. I want to know everything in the public space that's going to be occurring regarding Gilead Sciences in the next 3 days, 5 days, 1 day, 30 days, 90 days, whatever your time horizon is. And, and it doesn't matter if it's an earning or a dividend or investor conference or any of the other types of things. It's all in one place. And even better is this API. If, let's say, you are trading 122 utilities, it's a long list, but let's just say it's 122 utility names globally. What we can do is we can tell you all the things that are going to happen that are of import to the 122 names you track all in one place that are going to happen over the next, let's say, 3 days or 5 days or in the next 24 hours. And so that's what enchilada is just, I want to see the whole enchilada. Just give it to me all in one place. That's where the name came from. And quite frankly, it's worked out pretty well.
Well, congratulations. I missed lunch, and now you made me very hungry here, Barry, so we'll have to wrap this up forthwith. But, we talked a little bit about, obviously, what the pandemic is doing right now and how that's reshaping the corporate event space. But it's been a couple of years since you've been on. You kind of just mentioned the API, Barry. What else have you guys been cooking up over there in the Wall Street Horizon kitchen? We're not making enchiladas. What else is new that you're bringing to the table these days, Barry?
Well, Mark, if you don't mind, I'd like to throw in just a tiny little advertisement for an event that we're having on October 14th called a Data Expert Speed Consults. And it's not really about selling, but it is more like a doctor's drop-in day. What we've done is we've designed this extensive day on, again, October 14th. They are 15-minute private consultations designed to help, institutional traders, even some, perhaps even some retail folks like you are in your audience, and to help them advance their knowledge in the use of corporate event data. We have pulled together capital markets experts from some of the big boys, folks like Point72 and WorldQuant and Goldman and Balyasny and Exodus Point, and they're all there to help educate and help people who want to sign up on a one-to-one basis. No cost. It's free. You sign up and you get like a 15-minute private one-on-one session with a data expert to talk about what your data issues are. It could either be, I'm completely lost in the data space, help me out. It could be related to the alt data universe. It could be in our world, which is, corporate event trading or alpha generation or, risk management around low latency corporate event announcements. And all of that is happening on October 14th. We're actually pretty excited about it. We've already started getting signups. And again, that's all on our website, wallstreethorizon.com. I apologize for the little sales pitch.
So if I'm an institutional trader or on a desk somewhere and I'm having issues with my data, I can come to that URL, I can sign up, and you guys can set me straight, Barry?
Well, I can't, but the experts that are going to be there will. If you say, I'm thinking, I'm trying to execute this kind of strategy, what type of data do I need, or where do I find it, or who do I go to? We have experts that can help answer all those types of questions. Again, no cost. It's it's kind of like a trade show. At the top of this, we were talking about the pandemic. It's like the old days going to a trade show without actually having to go to the trade show.
All done in 15 minutes. Wow, I think it would take that long just to figure out what kind of feeds you're using and where you're routing from, and then you get to the heart of it. You guys are pretty quick. You're pretty efficient there, Barry.
Well, we, the way that we compete against the big boys is, by having data that is more accurate, more timely, more comprehensive, and at an extremely high level of service. And this is a good example of a very high service level. We are here to solve people's problems. It's not about just slogging data. We have built this really cool data collection engine that is just, extraordinarily, fault tolerant and extremely accurate in terms of pulling the data together. But there has to be value to it. And so we spend a lot of time talking to clients and to prospects about not just, hey, this data is cool, but let us show you how you can use this data to make money. Because isn't that what it's all about? It's about how to use it to further your business.
Well, you mentioned the alt data space. That's certainly an interesting one I've had my eye on now for a few years. Everyone in the market data area is used to getting it from your traditional silos, your exchanges, and paying exorbitant market data fees to get access to those types of things. But over the years, we've seen numerous inroads into that space. Startups like Quandl and other, which is now part, of course, of the NASDAQ empire, and others like that have tried to democratize that a little bit, bring data, make it a little bit more accessible. It seems like a lot of startups, particularly, on the West Coast area, have had a different viewpoint to data, that it should be free and open. It shouldn't be this monopoly thing that exchanges and others can kind of use as profit centers. So a little bit of a push and pull on two different mindsets in the space, which has been fascinating for me to watch. Is this an area you're watching pretty aggressively as well, Barry? Is this something you're trying to incorporate more into your data going forward? More alternative sources of data rather than just the traditional silos we've all come to rely on over the years?
Our world of, again, let's take earnings date revisions, changes in earnings date. The example I used before, which is someone who's announcing next Thursday and pushes it to the following Tuesday. I can send you a record that basically says at this point in time, this company moved their earnings date from here to there. And there's all kinds of alpha. There's all kinds of information to be gleaned from which direction is it moving, how many days it's moving, at what time, when did the actual announcement date occur? And we actually consider that to be a type of alt data itself. Now, we're on a lot of the alt data platforms. Quandl, we're not on that one, but we are on a bunch of the other ones already, our data. But at the end of the day, I have found, and again, I've been doing this for only 20 years, that part of the value to the client is you can't just throw data at people. You have to show people and work with them on how they can incorporate data into the way they're doing things to make their processes more efficient and more effective. And those are two different things. More efficient and more effective, so that ultimately you make more money. If I'm gonna charge you $1,000 for a feed or something like that, you should be making $10,000 from that data put into your service. If so, then you'll subscribe. You'll keep on subscribing. I'm happy to say that I've got clients. I've had clients with us for almost 20 years because they see the value of that data. And that's what it's all about. It's value and how to use it to further the business as opposed to just the data itself.
Now, Barry, we talked about the pandemic. Obviously, that's a big event that's been looming in the rearview mirror and is still looming out there right now. But we have another large event looming ahead of us, which is, of course, the election. And we've talked many times on this network about the impact that it's having on the volatility surface. People are obviously pricing in a pretty contentious election, so they're expecting a lot of volatility through the event and indeed beyond, perhaps even into January and beyond, depending on what model of prognostication you look at. Obviously, this is a big event on all different sectors of the economy and on the country in general. What are you seeing out there right now, Barry, in terms of impact of this large looming event on all of the data sets you're analyzing and all the corporate events you're looking at right now, sir?
I'm going to duck the question, and the way I'm going to duck it is by saying Wall Street Horizon focuses on single names. So we focus on corporates, corporate events, not so much the macro types of things. And what I can tell you is that, on the day after the election, there are still going to be companies out there announcing their earnings, still companies out there having to, make announcements of what's happening to their dividends. They're going to still be out there talking at, corporate access events and sell side investor conferences, and all those things are going to continue to come. The world will continue to exist no matter how it results in the election. Might take a while to find out what the answer is, but in the corporate space, in this corporate space of all the corporate events that we track, which is almost 10,000 of them on a global basis, certainly all the global stocks are just going to keep on going, but even the U.S. stocks will just keep going as well.
Well, unfortunately, Barry, that music means this interview is not going to keep going. We have come to the end of our time here. But before we go, Barry, if folks are interested, they want to take a bite of the full enchilada for themselves, or maybe they want to sign up for one of those 15-minute time slots on your upcoming data analysis day, where should they go? What should they do, Barry?
If you want a COVID impact report sent to you free, go to our website, www.wallstreethorizon, all spelled out, all one word, singularhorizon.com. And likewise, if you want to sign up for one of the, data expert speed consults, again, no obligation, completely free, world-class experts to help you, wrangle out your data problems, data issues. That's all there, too. You can also get www.wallstreethorizon.com.
There you go. wallstreethorizon.com is the place to go to get the full enchilada. And Barry, glad to hear things are going well in your neck of the woods, and hopefully we'll talk again sooner than a couple of years, and hopefully next time we chat, Barry, we won't have all these other lingering issues hanging out in the marketplace, sir.
Mark, I look forward to, next time we talk, I look forward to seeing you in person.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
I look forward to that as well, the days when we can all gather together at events. So what a distant memory that seems like now. Check them out, wallstreethorizon.com to learn more. You're probably already using it if you're looking at a brokerage platform right now. You probably have access to all of that data already. But check out the full enchilada and, of course, sign up for your data analysis as well on October 14th. And, of course, we'll see you back here tomorrow. It's Education Wednesday, so we got Options Bootcamp, Options Playbook Radio hitting the tape later today. Probably even have some other good stuff like the Advisors option hitting the network as well later, of course, on Thursday. The Option Block and TWIFO Friday, Volatility Views. Then it all kicks off again next week, right on through to Tuesday, and another episode of Options Insider Radio.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.